How did you come across that Songer interview?
I think Songer shared it on his story saying something like, "Shall I do a part two?" And I was like, "Wonder what part one was." So I clicked it. Then I watched that, and then I went on saw some of your music, and I was like, "Shit, man!" Because obviously I knew, and I could tell you knew what you're on about. And I was like, "He must do music." And I checked, and I was like, "Yo!" So as I said, I did a couple into my playlist already.
I've been watching your videos for a while, and
Ah,
when you commented on that, I was like, "Oh my god!" Like I've actually got. It had to be done, man. Start off, man. How have you been during lockdown?
yeah. So I weirdly liked it. I'm not gonna lie. The start, the first lockdown, I was like, it was the first time I've ever had a day free. So since I started, I've been doing Panna now every day for about 7 years, and training. But what I love is the training. So then when I started getting inundated with, I moved to London for uni, and then I started getting inundated with jobs, which is what you want, right? But you end up having to post certain things and film certain things. So I was doing that every day, and I never knew, like I couldn't have a holiday because the one time I booked a holiday, I had a job. So it's like it's a weird schedule. So with lockdown, I was like, oh shit, like this next period, I don't have any jobs. So I was like, yes, this is nice. I can actually just chill. So I just trained every day. I trained every day from the first lockdown all the way up, and then lockdown got released, and then World Champs were on, so I could travel for that, which was nice. Competed at two tournaments, and then by this point, I'd overtrained. To be honest, I had tendonitis in my knees from it. However, that's fine. And then I used the next lockdown just to rest, and it's a bit annoying because it gets to the stage where I want to spread the sport to more people, and you do that by interacting with them. However, now it's trying to do it digitally, but
I respect you because you're clearly so driven. It takes fucking years to like the way you do that, man. Like when you messaged me and you were saying like, "Oh yeah, no, you just did 5 hours of training that day." Do you do
yeah,
that every day?
yeah, yeah. If I can, like that's if my ideal day is to train all day. That like if I had, that's why I get annoyed when I have the jobs because I'm like, shit, I can't train today. I've got to do this. So yeah, if it's up to me, I'll just be win the lottery and I'll just train every day. Like it's what I enjoy. I'm extremely what's the word? If I don't improve at something in a day, it was a waste of a day. So be it, doing this interview, it's nice. So like, it's a good connection. Like that's a good part of the day. And it's like things like that are good for me. Like if I sit around, even if my FIFA team, if it gets better, okay, it was a good hour. Like I have to progress at everything I do. It doesn't always have to be football, but like now it's because now I've got a lot of injuries, which I'm maintaining. I can't train as much as I want to. So I'm training like 3 hours today, 4 hours today. If it was up to me, I mean, what day is it today? 2 days ago, I trained from 10:30 to 6. And that was like, yeah, because that's what I used to do when I was like 17, 18, before I moved to uni. Every summer, every day, I'd walk 45 minutes to the nearest football court, and then I would train all day, and then I'd walk back, and that was it. And that's like kind of my favorite. So when I come back to my hometown, like I am now, it's like shit. Let's get back into it. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
There's a lot of people who kind of aspire to do shit and
Mm,
want to, right?
yeah.
But don't. You know what I mean? And it's very inspirational to have that sort of very tangible passion.
Lots of people, they train for a reason or they work for a reason. I just train because I enjoy it and I want to get better. And it's the little gains, which for me are huge. Like someone might not see it. I might think of a new trick and everyone's like, oh, okay, that's cool. But for me, I'm like, yeah, that's big. Or like, I'm like, oh, my left foot is now as good as my right foot in this move. And for me, that was huge. Whereas for someone else, they're like, okay, cool. Everyone's they're like, oh, I want to train so I can win the world champs. And it's like, okay, yeah, maybe, but they are the type of people that will train half-heartedly or they'll like kick it out. But when you're just doing something you enjoy, it's much different. So like, yeah, I've achieved some pretty cool things from it, but that's not why I do it. But what I do want to show is that by following your passion, you can empower yourself, and you can just do it on your own. You really don't need it. With social media nowadays, if you put the work in one form or another, eventually it will come back to you. So with my training every day, after 3 years, I had fuck all to show for it. However, then I met the right people, and then I impressed them, and straight away everything started coming in. So after 3 years, I'd not met a single footballer By the end of the fourth year, I'd played with David Beckham and Paul Pogba. So you just gotta wait for it, and if you keep grinding, the right people will notice, and you'll make the right impressions.
I feel like banging in a goal or learning a new trick is like learning and like it's like rapping, man. It's like learning a new flow. Like
Oh,
you know what I
yeah,
mean?
and there's flows in what I do as well, which is interesting.
Exactly.
Like everyone's got a different style on the ball, and it's quite interesting that I think of music, it makes such a. I mean, half the time if I'm playing and I'll be against this guy, and I'm like, man, I'm just not getting him, and I change the song, different beat, different flow, and then I kill him, and I'm like, okay. So
Yeah, yeah,
sometimes
yeah, exactly.
it makes a big difference. Yeah.
Whereabouts are you from?
So I'm from Margate, southeast Kent, so right near the sea. Made a little cameo in Top Boy, so some people know it. But other than that, now then I moved to London for university when I was 18. I was studying at King's in central London, and I was doing philosophy. And then after that, I've stayed in London ever since. Actually, kind of out on the outskirts. I'm in Epping now, but yeah, now that's where I am full time, just back here to see family.
So just for people who don't know what Panna is, haven't
Yeah.
seen the BBC video, could you give a little explanation on what Panna is?
Yeah. So Panna is essentially the 1v1 of football. I kind of look at it like boxing. It's you versus one other opponent, small arena. Everyone's got, each player's got a small goal. After 3 minutes, the most goals wins. However, if you panna them, so nutmeg them, instant win like a knockout. So yeah, it's pretty cool. It's about developing new skills because everyone you're against knows you're trying to nutmeg them. So you've got to upgrade your skills and yeah, see if you can catch them by surprise.
One of the things I noticed about you as well when I was sort of watching your videos is that it's kind of not just the the skills in itself. Like you've got a lot of charisma as a person as well.
It's tough as well because when I started, no one knew what panna was. And then for me, it's like, you'll see as well, I do a lot of skills on the pitch and I do a lot of skills doing trick shots and other things. Do I want to do trick shots? Nah, not really. But what I do want is to interest someone so that when they see it, they're like, okay, why can you do that? Oh, and then they see Panna and they're like, oh, I'm in. And that I want to introduce people to the world. I think there's probably like 100,000 Panna fans in the world, but you need to reach more people. So I'm doing more 11-a-side things and trying to teach people and show that I enjoy it and hopefully that they can. And that I think that's yeah, it's nice that you pick up on that because that's something that I don't put it on. It's how I am, but I'm trying to show as much of myself and why I enjoy it personally. Because then someone will be like, actually, I'm gonna give it a go. That sounds fun. So I'm spreading it out to 11-a-side fans, hopefully as well. Uh, that's the aim.
And what was it that initially drew you to Panna as opposed to 11-a-side football?
See, I played 11-a-side. I was a right back, so I was a defender. Whenever I play 11-a-side, I'm a defender, which makes no sense. But I was pretty decent. I started quite late, but about 14, I got injured when I felt like I had a chance. Who knows if I did or didn't. And after that, I was like, that's it. I'm not playing football again. I loved it, but there was too much politics in 11-a-side. Sometimes my team would win, and I was like sad because I was like, I think I played shit, but we won. Or sometimes I'd play amazing. I'm like, yeah, but we lost. And I was like, oh, this just isn't for me. My dad, on the other hand, he was a boxer. So I was watching him and the way he prepared. And I just loved the fact that he put in so much hard work and then he got a result. I was like, sick. So I was like, I've always been that mentality. And then my mum took me to, she was like, Jack, you need to play football. You're being antisocial. Here's a club. And the club was at a town hall. And I was like, Mum, I'm not going to the town hall. She's like, oh, yeah, you are. I said, no, I'm not. A week later, she says, hey, Jack, come walk the dog. Okay, yeah, walking the dog. She hands me £1 and my football shoes. And I went into this club. It cost £1, and that was where I met Yofi from Your Street Zone. And he knew Panna, and he was teaching it. There were 3 other kids there. I nutmegged the first 2. I was like, yeah. And then the third kid murdered me, and I was like, whoa, I did not expect that. So I trained. A week later, came back, got revenge, and then I carried on training. So I just watched a lot of YouTube. I learned from Yofi. And then when I'd learned as much as I could from him, I just carried on training on my own, thinking of new ways and progressing. So yeah,
I'm sorry about your injury, man.
that's fine.
Because that guy did it out of spite, didn't he? Because you got
Yeah,
nothing.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure. So
that's
yeah,
horrible.
and then stamped on, yeah, nasty business. But that's partly why I love Panna because with street sports as well, it's like, skateboarding, even with rap, I feel like there's a sense of community because everyone's just trying to make it better, make the scene bigger, make the okay, there's rivalries within it, but at the end of the day, like you respect the other person who's doing it. Like in Panna, like even if I got murdered by someone, I'll be like, yo, fair play, like it's good. So it's this kind of camaraderie instead of, you know, he's gonna make it, I'm not. Let's take it out on him. And it's like, oh
Yeah,
man, relax.
exactly.
Same thing.
And I noticed that in your games, it's like you'll sort of murder someone, right? And then the other person will be willing to, like, it's just like, yeah, man, and then you shake hands. You know what I mean? And you don't really get that as much in 11 aside. So I see that.
Yeah, in 11 aside, there's a lot of ego in 11 aside. In Panna, it's like you're stepping into a sport where 50-50, you're either gonna murder them or they're gonna murder you. So it's like if you're not willing to have a bit of humiliation on your name, then there's no point playing it. So it's like if being a boxer and then getting hit and being like, oh, what the hell, you hit me, man. And it's like relax.
Yeah, and that takes balls, man, because that's a lot of pressure. So a lot of pressure.
Yeah, man, it's true. Like a lot of people say to me now that I don't need to compete, in the sense of like, you know, you've got the followers, you've got the whatever, you don't need to compete. But for me, it's like that's what I love. But it's interesting that there's some people who won't go to competitions now that they've got a reputation. Whereas for me, it's like I don't feel like I'd lose anything if I got nutmegged. If anything, I feel like I'd inspire more people because everyone has two legs. Like you'll get nutmegged. I'm just lucky enough that most of the time, recently especially, I've nutmegged the other person before they've got me. So I'll take that.
You seem very true to yourself, and I think that's the key thing, isn't it? Like, whilst other
100.
people might not want to go into competitions, you have that passion.
So if you're not gonna do well in a competition, you can't. I'd feel like I was a fraud if I was to have a lot of followers, and yet I wasn't gonna do well, and I was not actually a good player. Like so, for me, I warrant to myself, okay, I've got the opportunity to reach a lot of people. I'm thankful for that, and I've worked hard for it. But the reason that I've got it is because I'm actually good. So let's just keep showing them. There's a lot of I don't want to be like, oh, Jack, like, yeah, he's just because I get this a lot. I get like, oh yeah, but he just nutmegs kids, or like, oh yeah, he just does tutorials. He's just a YouTuber, and it's like, okay, play me, and then I'll kill him again. So it's like, yeah, I post videos where I nutmeg kids, but that's because the kids want to play, and they're like, oh, will you post it? Okay, yeah, sure. But it's like, I will also do it at competition. So that's what I stand by, and that's I don't know. I like that challenge as well.
And it's like I did a don't flop. Do you know don't flop?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The don't
Hey,
flop
that's
pass, right?
tough, man.
Bro, it's like pressure like I've never had before,
Hey,
and I got nutmegged pretty much. You know what I mean? That's why I
yeah,
respect it. It's a whole lot of pressure. I mean, with
no,
you,
it's
like
serious.
a lot of people watching it.
That's why, for example, you know, even the rap game UK, I liked watching it just because you see them like they're walking in thinking they've got it. Some of them might have it up, but then you see how hard it is with crap there, the cameras there. It's a different world. And I've on camera is like I hated talking on cameras. I'd even find this tough a couple of years ago. But now it's just all easy because I'm used to it. And I think when you get used to that, that's when you really start like that's when you go away from that scenario, you can really create something crazy because you know the environment and you know how to big it up. And I think like, yeah, even in the rap game UK, you saw Graft go from flopping to like killing everyone. And I think it's like that's pretty cool.
Literally the human condition, isn't it? Like not
Yeah. So I think
everyone human fails, and that's how you get better.
if you're willing to put yourself in the failure, like man, I got nutmegged thousands of times at the start. Like just like thankfully there wasn't too many cameras on me back then, so that's fine. But yeah, that's the only reason. And no, some of my friends, like I train with my good friend Billy, and he gets nutmegged every day by me. That's how it is. And he hasn't even got me yet, but every day he's getting closer. And it's kind of like I'm amazed that he still does it. But then he knows that as soon as he plays someone else, well, actually, he's doing really well. And he's kind of got this hidden thing where some people think, oh, yeah, well, he's not that good. He gets nutmegged by Jack all the time. And then he nutmegs him. And you're like, yeah, there you go. So it's, I think if you're willing to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation, you'll always come out on top.
Definitely. Imagine you getting nutmegged, man.
Yeah, I used to get killed.
Yeah.
Even my dad was nutmegging me. Man. So, yeah,
Look,
savage.
and just to go back, so your dad's a
Yeah.
boxer.
Yeah.
So how has that influenced you in your drive or in other ways?
I mean, it's influenced. My dad is my biggest inspiration, but not only is he a boxer, I mean, this guy was a fireman, policeman, he was in the army, he was a teacher. He was actually Billy's English teacher, which is nuts, whilst boxing. So it's always been his passion. I think for me, you know, seeing him have a full-time job, working 9 to 5, and then all the shit that you've got to do at home, and then training before that, and then training after that. He was driving 2 hours in the morning. He'd leave at 5 o'clock in the morning, go train in London, work in London, train in London, get back, and then do it all again. And he never complained and he never moaned and he enjoyed it. And it was a challenge for him and he did it. And I think, you know, when you see that, it's like, yeah, I want to do that. You know, my dad did SAS training. I said, Dad, I need to do that. When I was like 8, I said, what are you doing? He's like, running 40 kilometers up hills and camping with leeches on him or some shit. And I'm like, yo,
Holy
I want to
shit.
do that. And it was like, it made it seem like exciting. And his outlook on life was to push himself as much as he can be, to be the most complete person. And now I'm like, you know, he was doing a PhD and a master's whilst teaching, whilst training. You're like, what the hell? How do you even do that? And he's never, I don't feel like he's ever had a day off, although he thinks he does. He thinks he's relaxing all the time. But really, he's doing things which I think are, you know, I was doing my BA in philosophy, and he was doing an MA and a PhD at the same time whilst working. And I was there saying, Dad, man, it's a load of stress. How do I do this essay? And he's just there like, oh yeah, okay, this is how you do it. Helps me with it, whilst he's doing all his stuff. I think when you're around someone like that, you're like, yeah, there's really is a lot more I can do with my time. It's very easy to close doors on yourself. Like I was thinking, oh man, this essay and this shoot, and I've got to train. Okay, yeah, that's quite a few things, and I'm busier than the people around me. But when I see Dad, I'm like, whoa, actually, that's how busy you can be. So when you surround yourself with the people who are really trying to push the boundaries, that's when you realize, whoa, there's way more that I can do. I can just wake up a bit earlier. I can just uninstall that stupid game on my phone that I play for 20 minutes every so often. Yeah. And then you start realizing, oh, that's an hour just to do an essay. Done. And it's also, I used to think, oh, it takes me like 4 hours to do an essay. Well, actually, not if you get good at essays. Then you can start doing them in 2 hours, and then you got one draft, and you know, so on. So I think it's just about realizing, don't box yourself in. Just you can improve your time management and enjoy that. You know, it's like doing the plank. The plank is my favorite exercise because I don't have to move. You know, press ups, all the, oh man, weights, I've got to move. When you're in the plank, all you got to do is lay there, you know, and it's uncomfortable, but when you're used to it, it's fine. And you actually, you know, and then eventually after quite a while, you start shaking, you know, your arms are shaking, but you don't have to move. You just got to stay there. And I think when you get used to that feeling and I start enjoying it when I'm shaking. So I'm like, how the hell is this even working? How am I still here? That is when you have your zone. So when you're that busy throughout the whole day, but you don't feel like you're busy, it's easy for you. And that's what I learned from my dad, to be honest. He always pushed the boundary.
That's really impressive. That's something very rare, man. Like, I feel
Yeah.
that not a lot of people have that level of discipline. You know what I mean?
But he never pushed me in any sense. I just kind of saw it and was like, that was it.
Yeah.
But he always supported. So I
Good.
think it's just when you got the right people around you, man,
Yeah.
it's become a good unit, you know.
What was it like to grow up in Kent? And how's that
Like,
influenced, you now?
yeah, I mean, it's kind of paradox as it is, you know, being called Street Panna and then being from a very nice seaside town in Kent is a bit of oh, a new background. It's a bit of a difference. However, I thoroughly enjoyed everything about my upbringing. Very blessed with the family that I have, and it was kind of nice. Like, you know, we never had any money whatsoever. Really, I had one pair of shoes. When they had holes in, I was training with Tesco bags over my socks, so my feet didn't get wet when it was raining. But it was a nice approach. I feel like we focused on the real things, and being in Kent, you know, in Thanet, it's a very nice, you know, it's a bit gritty in places, like any seaside town. However, you got a lot of freedom because it's kind of like there's not much there. There's some fields and there's the beach, and you can just kind of, as a kid, I just floated around and did what I wanted. And I think that really just gave it. Basically, there's nothing to do, so I had to think of what to do, and there was no football. The nearest football club's Gillingham, an hour and a half away. And it was kind of like, shit, what do I do? And I just thought, I'm going to train, and Panna's on your own. And I just trained on my own. And all my mates were going to parties. And I was like, I wanted to, but I was like, nah, I'm going to train. Eventually I did. But it was like, you know, it gave me that space to really focus on my own. And that was what I liked. Whereas some places like in London, it's kind of hard to get away from, you know, from everyone else. But in Kent, you know, where I grew up, it was really easy to get away from everyone. I was just training on my own for a good part of my childhood.
Mm.
But I really liked it.
Was there a defining moment where you discovered Panna?
There was, I'd say, the biggest moment in my Panna kind of career as such was there was one where I got revenge on the guy. The first time I went to Panna and I got nutmegged, A week later, I got revenge on the guy that nutmegged me. That was pretty good because he'd been doing it for like 3 months and I'd been doing it 1 week, but I'd watched everything on YouTube. And then when I came back and I got him, his name was James. I said, James, you're going to play me. We're going to play now. And we had to play at the end of the session. I said, James, come on, let's go. And I nutmegged him and he was kind of like, okay, we'll go again. And he had some tricks, but I knew them now. I said, all right, round two. And I got him again. James never came back. He never played Panna again. So that moment, I was like, I must be pretty good at this because that James kid was techie, but he's not about anymore.
Yeah, Terminator.
Yeah, I had to get him. I had to, and in that week, I made my friends from school. I say, like, Rob, he doesn't never even played football. I said, Rob, you have to come play football with me after school. We walk home, and I said, look, come tackle me. I'm going to try and nutmeg you. And that was it. And we just trained like that, got everyone involved. But there was, you get a lot of stick, like, and a lot of like comments when you're doing Panna because even my best friend, like I was very fortunate at school, like, I was in a good group, but like even my friends were like, yo, why are you training football on your own? You're just a try hard, or like you're gonna be playing football. This is what one of my friends said. You're gonna be playing football on your own at the park when you're 40. I was like, what the hell, man? Like, why are you saying that? I was just like, huh? And then they started saying like taking the piss, like, oh, Jack Down a skill school. I'm thinking, okay. Because at that point, I was saying no to parties and I was saying no to 11-a-side practice because I was just playing on my own. And I was equally too shit to nutmeg them. So, at the start, I wasn't good enough to just like murder everyone, but that's what I was training for. And then after about 6 months extra, I remember I was against, there was this kid that used to play Panna and he'd done it for a couple of years, but he'd stopped. And he was like meant to be the most skillful kid in the school or whatever. And he was in this group which wasn't my friends. And then he challenged me and said, "Come on, then let's play." All right, everyone, I kid you not, everyone started watching. Even the PE teachers came over and started watching. And with Panna, if you get someone after a minute, 2 minutes, they're like, "Oh yeah, well done," but I was tired, you know. And I knew this, so I'd been training. So as soon as he came in, I said, "All right, let's go." Boom, I panned him like straight away. And everyone was just went nuts. Even the PE teachers were like jumping in, and I was like, yeah. And after that, everyone knew, and no one chatted shit ever again because I'd killed them straight away. And then, ironically, before I left school, I made a club called Jack Down a Skill School. It was on a Thursday at lunch, and like everyone came to it and just played football. So that was pretty cool as well. So we spun the joke on its head. But yeah, there's kind of a turning point. It's probably the same with rap as well. Like if you can't deliver straight away, you're not gonna get the respect. Like so you gotta work hard. You just separate yourself, work hard, don't show too much, and then when you've got to that level, that's when you're gonna be able to kill it.
Yeah, exactly. That is a very satisfying story.
Ah, thanks, man. The
And that's pretty annoying of them as well. Is that an accent, a little accent that I'm
everyone
gonna.
says this. I get told I do presenting with the Premier League, and every comment is like, "What is this South African roadman or something?" What the hell? I get the weirdest comments. I think what it is.
Yeah,
I know too many people from too many
yeah,
places.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So it's just like some bullshit. It's definitely not a Kent accent, I'll tell you that. But yeah, I get the only hate I get nowadays is what is his accent? I say, fam, I don't know. I think it's an amalgamation. Every year since I was 16, I've gone to
Yeah.
Copenhagen. I've got a lot of Danish friends, and I blame Denmark.
So after you discovered the team in the town hall, so after that you went to the European Championship and the World Championship and did really well in it. So could you talk me through what that was like for you when you had that sort of like, I mean, it must have been mad when you finished in the top 32.
It
Um,
was it was nuts because mainly because I just said to my dad, I said, look, let's go. We're one of the first people from the UK to ever compete in it, and if not the first for that European tournament. And when I was there, I saw the maddest bit was driving into the players' hotel, and everyone, it was like 10 o'clock at night, and everyone was outside training. And I was there, I was like, holy shit, that's Christopher Licht. Oh my days, that's Sufjan Bangkok. And they're all my idols. And I was like, oh my God, I'm meeting him. And then I was like, oh, my dad said, hey, don't get too excited. You're going to play against him. And I was like, oh, yeah, I am. So I thought, fuck it. I jumped out and I started playing matches with random people. And this guy came straight up to me. He's like, hey, yeah, play me. And I was like, okay. And he was pretty good. And I was like, oh. And then I actually nutmegged him. And everyone was like, yo, no way you got him. And I was like, yeah. And then it turns out that he was one of the best. He was the best player from Germany. He's who I think is the best Panna player in the world. and I got him. Like I remember at that point, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So I knew I had something. Then in the tournaments, I did well. I got through with a couple of Pannas, and then I just met a very experienced player who just controlled the game. And I wasn't very savvy in relation to scoring goals, and he just scored a couple goals, and that was it. Um, and I was like, oh shit, okay, that's how to win. Took me a lot of tournaments to realize how to win, especially when the odds are kind of stacked against you. Being from England and competing, when you compete in Belgium, it's set up by the Belgians, and the Belgian players are always going to do well because you're in their hometown and so on. And when you're always traveling, it's like being a journeyman in boxing. It's not so easy. But then 6 months later, I did the world champs, as you mentioned, and I came top 32. And ironically, I beat the guy who knocked me out in Europe. So that showed the improvement. However, it took, I'd say it's taken like 4 or 5 years of competing to start getting to a level where I'm like, it's hard to show how good you are in a tournament because it's very easy to nullify players that are not experienced. They sometimes they just stand in the wrong part of the pitch, so it's easy to run around them. Or sometimes they think you're going to do something, but you can just kick it in. It's very easy to play like that, and now I've kind of got lots of the tips and tricks, and also match day, like being ready for it. We're playing. You can play 12 matches, I think, in one day, which is super tiring. And if any, lots of people they think Panda's probably 3 minutes. That's not hard. It's like the weirdest cardio in the world. It's pretty intense, especially when with the physicality. So I think getting used to that and that sort of match fitness is the kind of final thing that I need. I've got it, but if I had it slightly better and I wasn't injured, I'd have won one of the previous world champs that I went out in the semis in. So I'm excited for the next one because that's I've got every tournament you learn what you need to work on, and yeah, I feel like I've finally got it all mapped out.
Tell me if you get this background.
Is it nutmeg?
That's a big moment that you nutmeg that the best German player in Panna.
Yeah, no, it was crazy because I never, I didn't even know how good he was, and then I went back and I watched it. Actually, no, I tried to find his videos because his name was Jan Yana, and I'm thinking you spell that with a J. Turns out you spell it with a C, Can Yana. Anyway, I don't really know German pronunciation, or Turkish. I think he's Turkish. But anyway, then I saw him competing the next day, and he was killing it, and I was like, oh my days, like, I got him. So that was pretty cool.
And so, how did you find being in the Adidas in the Tango Squad FC?
Yeah,
How was that, man?
Tango FC. It was nuts. It was nuts. I used to collect autographs when I was a kid. So when I was 14, I remember for my birthday, I got an Xabi Alonso autograph. He was my favorite player at Liverpool, and I was like, "Yo, that's sick." Then Tango Squad FC, I went through a lot of trials and competitions, and I won it. I won my sport, and my manager was Xabi Alonso. So I was just like, what? I learned a lot of things, obviously, but also I learned a lot because it was a YouTube show. It was all about on the camera, and what happened wasn't necessarily what you saw. And it was interesting to learn. I was always fascinated with adverts and social media, and it was nice to see how a big brand actually creates content and what they were looking for. So I realized quite quickly that if I acted a certain way, or if I did certain things, or I said certain things, I'd be in the episode more. That's amazing moments, playing at Old Trafford twice. We finally won our last game, which was insane. Training with the under 2021s at Real Madrid with Guti as the manager, that was nuts. Um, chatting with Gareth Bale, who was my idol at the time. All amazing things, amazing trips with a great bunch of people. We were all from different countries. So, I've now got best friends in Japan, in France, in Brazil. And that's kind of cool to have as well, because although the show is not going on, we're still friends. So it's always nice to be able to hit them up when we're traveling and so on. Although COVID's trying to stop that.
And what's your favorite moment been traveling?
It's tricky. I went to America once. I did, and this was pretty cool just because there was a lot of soccer camps out there, and I was just there to nutmeg everyone. So I got paid to go and nutmeg people in America, and they kind of didn't know too much about Panna, so it was nice. That was fun. However, in the middle, I then went and traveled. My girlfriend came over, and we traveled America, and that was pretty sick. But my favorite holiday ever was actually just a trip to Scotland, which I wouldn't have necessarily predicted. However, out in Scotland, it was pretty cool. We just went and like hiked mountains and stuff, and that was nice. So I don't know. Actually, this was cool. I went to Bali with my girlfriend, and I was just wearing normal clothes, didn't have a football or anything, walking through the markets, and then a kid jumped off a moped, shouting "Street banner, street banner." I was like, "What the hell?" So that was pretty cool.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I was like, "What?" But hey, like big up that kid in Indonesia. Turns out in Indonesia, I got quite a big following, so they love all the street banner. So
That's
who knew
mad.
that? I ended up coaching. I just did classes and played with all the kids for like 2 weeks. That was pretty sick.
Yeah,
Um,
that's sick that, that it's kind of led you onto these adventures.
yeah, 100%. I think it's at the end of the day, like with a growing sport, there's always it's kind of like skating before it got mainstream in my eyes. Like there's I know in every country there's someone playing Panna, and they all have their own localized communities, but maybe I haven't seen it yet. So it's just about connecting the dots and trying to really pioneer it and bring it all to the main stage together, I think.
Hmm. Yeah, sick man. And also, you nutmegged your significant other, didn't you? Yeah.
Many times. I don't know how she puts up with it.
Um,
She's getting pretty good though. I warn you. She's nutmegged quite a lot of my mates. Yeah. She also she's getting hard to nutmeg now. Like it kind of pisses me off. I'm like, hey, is play me, and I'm thinking, how I'm gonna nutmeg her, and it's gonna go on 43, and I'm gonna wind her up about it. But then she's like tackling me. I'm like, whoa, what? So yeah, you gotta
curious,
be careful.
who was this person that you sort of wanted to make contact with the most that you've met, or the coolest person in competition?
Yeah. Um, David Beckham's got an aura about him. He was just really nice as well. But he was damn good at football. Like the ball comes to him and he just touches it right perfectly where he wants it. It was really he'd beat you without even doing a skill. He'd just pass it in front of you and you're like, whoa. Paul Pogba is the most skillful player I've met. He's insane. Like his technical ability is fake. And as an athlete, he put his arm on me and I like flew over there. I was like, what the hell? Like he didn't even push me. So that was impressive. Um, there's a lot of footballers that are good. Some that surprise me. Mamadou Sakho, the centre back for Crystal Palace. I used to watch him at Liverpool and he used to make me nervous because I'm a Liverpool fan. I was always scared when he had the ball. He is skillful. I was like, what? I played with him and he had loads of skill. So I think, lots of these pros, they're very technical. But one of the more exciting things for me, obviously the pro game, I think, it's incredibly exciting. I think Panna can be used on the field, and I want to show that. But I think there's a whole other avenue, which is the connection to rap. I think it's massive. I have a lot of. I don't know if you've seen Stars League. It's very cool. It's like a five-a-side with a lot of rappers who take part, and I've done a lot of stuff with them. And I think once I saw, how many loads of rappers are proper techie, like Rams. Well, Rams is sick, and then who else is sick? J1's telling me he's got something, so I want to test that. Even H has a couple of skills. So it's like there's a lot of, and then there's a lot of rappers who are also they used to be pro or they are still pro, like Donny, for example. And it's I think that's super cool. So or Denor, the French rapper, I did a video of him, and I think I want to connect those worlds. I think it's I'm not a I have no rapping ability whatsoever. However, I love it, and I think if there's a way that we can connect the football and music go hand in hand. So I think I'm all up for connecting that and trying to showcase. I just love talent and hard work and people that are doing that. So if there's any way that I can showcase, for example, Songer, I think this guy, you see his ability, and I'm like, so it's like if there's any way that I can showcase talent, I'm more than happy. And I think that's what's cool about our worlds is that each of us can make it online socially just by doing hard work. And if there's any way we can all do that together, well, I'm on board. So I think that's cool.
Yeah, yeah, that's sick, and that's a really nice direction to take it. But yeah, definitely, man, I'd love to get involved as well. Me
Hey,
and
you're gonna have to come play a match, bro.
bro,